morning and welcome to Fox 29's News Now on this Tuesday morning. We're going to get started with some local news for you. While most teens are getting ready for school this morning, a 14-year-old boy is recovering after being shot outside a high school football game. He was just an innocent bystander caught in last week's crossfire. Fox 29's Sabina Kriakos has the story.
It was a football game between Graz and Imhotep, and the shooting happened right outside of the stadium here. 14-year-old DeJuan Williams had just, in fact, left a peace rally in order to attend the game with his friends. And take a look at this video, cell phone video from inside of the stadium, leading to chaos inside. Students and players hearing the gunfire outside and running for cover. Again, this was on Friday night. You can see how scared these young people were. DeJuan had just gotten in line for tickets, and he had no idea that he and another teenager, 15-year-old boy, also in the same line, had been shot.
It felt like a pop, but I didn't know what it was, because when I was standing in line, a girl ran past me and knocked my phone out my hand. So I thought when she ran past me, she kicked me or something. But then as I started walking more, it started hurting.
Police say the shooting stemmed from some kind of a dispute that had nothing to do with the game or the two teenagers who were caught in the crossfire. They were innocent bystanders. Luckily, both of them, DeJuan and the other teenager, are both expected to be okay. Monday was the first day back to school for many of the kids who were here at this football game when all of that chaos broke out. Graz High School had social workers and a therapy dog on hand in order to help kids deal with the trauma. The school district and the police department now putting their heads together to try to figure out how they can prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future. We are in North Philadelphia, Tioga Nicetown. Sabina Kriakos, Fox 29 News. Back to you.
And more in local news this morning from Camden County. Police are searching for the driver behind a deadly hit and run. This morning, the victim's family is begging that the driver come forward. Fox 29's Lauren Johnson filed this report.
The hit and run happened here almost a week ago at this intersection here behind me. It was 9:37 p.m. on Thursday, so it was dark, hard to see someone on foot, but family members say what's not hard is to stop and call for help once you realize you hit someone. Mark Breslin was a pedestrian that night near Highway 45 and Hessian Avenue. That's when police tell us the late model white Ford Explorer traveling southbound hit him and then sped off from the scene. Still going southbound, the driver was last seen turning right onto High Street in Woodbury City. Police not really sure about the extent of damage to that SUV. They didn't recover any debris on scene here, but family members are having a really tough time understanding what happened in those moments to the 37-year-old father of two.
He's a good guy, man. He's had a good big heart. Anybody that ever met him that liked him, He wasn't a bad guy at all. He had his problems, but we all do. Get down to the police station, do the right thing. Do the right thing. Because it's going to follow you one way or another. Go do the right thing. You didn't do the right thing that night. Do the right thing now.
And police are just releasing this video and hope someone might recognize something in that video. As for the victim, family members tell us he was a father, a brother, a son who was born and raised in Gloucester City until his life tragically ended last week. If you remember that night, remember being in the area or recognize that car, police in West Deptford do want to hear from you. The phone number they're providing, 856-845-2300.
And in consumer news this morning, Samsung's new foldable phone launches in the U.S., and Disney offers subscriptions to its new streaming service ahead of its launch date. Fox Business Network's Tracy Crosco has more in today's Morning Business Outlook.
Stocks little changed on Monday in a relatively quiet trading day. Weak Eurozone manufacturing data added to economic growth concerns. Disney's new streaming service won't launch until November 12th, but you can pre-order it right now. The House of Mouse is now selling individual month packages for $6.99 and yearly plans for just under $70. For those who want the Disney Plus combo package, including Hulu and ESPN Plus, you're going to have to wait until the launch date to sign up. And Samsung's latest phone, the Galaxy Fold, is finally here. Starting on September 27th, you can get the long-awaited device. The foldable smartphone was delayed several months following reviewer complaints of the phone not working properly. The high-tech gadget comes with a high price tag, $2,000. For more, log on to foxbusiness.com. In New York, I'm Tracy Carrasco.
And moving on to your Fox 29 Weather Authority, the Philadelphia area is expected to experience some more seasonable weather Tuesday compared to what we experienced yesterday, with the first day of fall and summer-like conditions. Temperatures will reach a high of around 78 degrees today with mostly sunny skies. The forecast is expected to stay dry for the next several days with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Temperatures are expected to rise, though, to the mid-80s at least by Thursday. And here we have a look at current temperatures in our area. A much cooler 55 degrees up in the Poconos this morning, nearing the mid-60s mark over in Lancaster, PA, and almost hitting the 70s, 69 degrees here in the city of Philadelphia. Meanwhile, down the shore, a bit cooler in Atlantic City, 66 degrees, and 71 in Wildwood. And looking ahead to your 7-day forecast, again, it's going to be a sunny and breezy, seasonable day today, this Tuesday, with similar conditions expected tomorrow and Thursday. There is a threat of showers this weekend, but for now, it's sunny, breezy, and beautiful. And don't forget to download the latest version of the Fox 29 Weather Authority app. Have the latest forecast. And more in local news this morning. In Burlington County, Evesham police are looking for these men who stole about a dozen wheels off cars at the Elkins Chevrolet dealership around 10 p.m. Saturday. They targeted cars with 22-inch custom rims with black finishes. You can see them wheeling them just through the parking lot. Police say they broke into the vehicles and took the wheel lock keys from the glove boxes before taking the wheels. And here in Philadelphia, St. Christopher's Hospital for Children is officially off the market. Drexel University and Tower Health are teaming up to buy the hospital. Negotiations between the companies began last week, and a bankruptcy judge just approved the sale. The owner of both Hahnemann and St. Christopher's filed for bankruptcy back in July. And attention travelers, we are approaching the 1-year mark until you'll need a real ID in order to board domestic flights. That begins October 1st of 2020. Pennsylvania and New Jersey driver's licenses will no longer meet federal standards. Delaware's IDs won't be affected, but PennDOT and the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Association are putting out the call to get your real ID now before the lines get too long.
There hasn't been enough rush. There has been steady, but we need everyone who's going to get a real ID or thinking about getting real ID to come in before the rush.
So if you live in Pennsylvania or New Jersey and need help getting a real ID, we've put information on our website for you at fox29.com. And in Cumberland County this morning, investigators are asking people who visited Bridgeton City Park last Monday to check their phones for either photos or videos as they continue searching for 5-year-old Dulce Maria Alavez. They're hoping the public can help them as they search for the abducted child. FBI agents searched the woods and stopped drivers near the park yesterday afternoon. Dulce was reportedly abducted near a swing set last Monday while playing after her mother bought her ice cream at a local store. Her family remains hopeful that she will come home.
And we want Dulce to come back, and if anybody has any information, so please contact the police and tell them, because we really want Dulce to come back with us.
So if you have photos or video from the park last Monday that you think can help investigators, they've set up a link for you to upload them. We've posted that link on fox29.com. And in Philadelphia, police are investigating an overnight homicide that happened on the 2800 block of Ormez Street just after 1:30 this morning. Officers found a 26-year-old man shot once in the stomach and once in the head. They found him a few feet away from his home. Witnesses told police they saw several people fleeing the scene. So far, no arrests have been made. Also in Philadelphia, a group of women and a baby are lucky to be alive after being caught in the crossfire of a shootout between two groups of men. Bullets started flying just after 7 p.m. yesterday on the 3000 block of Germantown Ave. Police reviewed surveillance video showing two groups of men opening fire, including two of them who were shooting from inside a Chinese takeout store. The back window of the van was shot out, and inside were 4 women and a child. Thankfully, none were injured. Officers found nearly 27 shell casings at the scene. One man was shot in the back and another in the shoulder. They're both at the hospital and are expected to recover. So far, no arrests. And we are going to take you over now to New York, where President Trump is speaking before the UN General Assembly. Stay with us.
Level in over half a century. Fueled by massive tax cuts and regulations cuts, jobs are being produced at a historic rate. 6 million Americans have been added to the employment rolls in under 3 years. Last month, African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment reached their lowest rates ever recorded. We are marshaling our nation's vast energy abundance, and the United States is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. Wages are rising, incomes are soaring, and 2.5 million Americans have been lifted out of poverty in less than 3 years. As we rebuild the unrivaled might of the American military, we are also revitalizing our alliances by making it very clear that all of our partners are expected to pay their fair share of the tremendous defense burden which the United States has borne in the past. At the center of our vision for national renewal is an ambitious campaign to reform international trade. For decades, the international trading system has been easily exploited by nations acting in very bad faith. As jobs were outsourced, a small handful grew wealthy at the expense of the middle class. In America, the result was 4.2 million lost manufacturing jobs and $15 trillion in trade deficits over the last quarter century. The United States is now taking that decisive action to end this grave economic injustice. Our goal is simple. We want balanced trade that is both fair and reciprocal. We have worked closely with our partners in Mexico and Canada to replace NAFTA with the brand new and hopefully bipartisan U.S., Mexico, Canada agreement. Tomorrow, I will join Prime Minister Abe of Japan to continue our progress in finalizing a terrific new trade deal. As the United Kingdom makes preparations to exit the European Union, I have made clear that we stand ready to complete an exceptional new trade agreement with the UK that will bring tremendous benefits to both of our countries. We are working closely with Prime Minister Boris Johnson on a magnificent new trade deal. The most important difference in America's new approach on trade concerns our relationship with China. In 2001, China was admitted to the World Trade Organization. Our leaders then argued that this decision would compel China to liberalize its economy and strengthen protections to provide things that were unacceptable to us, and for private property, and for the rule of law. 2 decades later, this theory has been tested and proven completely wrong. Not only has China declined to adopt promised reforms, it has embraced an economic model dependent on massive market barriers, heavy state subsidies, currency manipulation, product dumping, forced technology transfers, and the theft of intellectual property, and also trade secrets on a grand scale. As just one example, I recently met the CEO of a terrific American company, Micron Technology, at the White House. Micron produces memory chips used in countless electronics. To advance the Chinese government's 5-year economic plan, a company owned by the Chinese state allegedly stole Micron's designs, valued at up to $8.7 billion. Soon, the Chinese company obtains patents for nearly an identical product, and Micron was banned from selling its own goods in China. But we are seeking justice. The United States lost 60,000 factories after China entered the WTO. This is happening to other countries all over the globe. The World Trade Organization needs drastic change. The second largest economy in the world should not be permitted to declare itself a developing country in order to game the system at others' expense. For years, these abuses were tolerated, ignored, or even encouraged. Globalism exerted a religious pull over past leaders, causing them to ignore their own national interests. But as far as America is concerned, those days are over. To confront these unfair practices, I placed massive tariffs on more than $500 billion worth of Chinese-made goods. Already, as a result of these tariffs, supply chains are relocating back to America and to other nations, and billions of dollars are being paid to our Treasury. The American people are absolutely committed to restoring balance to our relationship with China. Hopefully, we can reach an agreement that will be beneficial for both countries. But as I have made very clear, I will not accept a bad deal for the American people. As we endeavor to stabilize our relationship, we're also carefully monitoring the situation in Hong Kong. The world fully expects that the Chinese government will honor its binding treaty made with the British and registered with the United Nations, in which China commits to protect Hong Kong's freedom, legal system, and democratic ways of life. How China chooses to handle the situation will say a great deal about its role in the world in the future. We are all counting on President Xi as a great leader. The United States does not seek conflict with any other nation. We desire peace, cooperation, and mutual gain with all. But I will never fail to defend America's interests. One of the greatest security threats facing peace-loving nations today is the repressive regime in Iran. The regime's record of death and destruction is well known to us all. Not only is Iran the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, but Iran's leaders are fueling the tragic wars in both Syria and Yemen. At the same time, the regime is squandering the nation's wealth and future in a fanatical quest for nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them. We must never allow this to happen. To stop Iran's path to nuclear weapons and missiles, I withdrew the United States from the terrible Iran nuclear deal, which has very little time remaining, did not allow inspection of important sites, and did not cover ballistic missiles. Following our withdrawal, we have implemented severe economic sanctions on the country. Hoping to free itself from sanctions, the regime has escalated its violent and unprovoked aggression. In response to Iran's recent attack on Saudi Arabian oil facilities, we just imposed the highest level of sanctions on Iran's central bank and sovereign wealth fund. All nations have a duty to act. No responsible government should subsidize Iran's bloodlust. As long as Iran's menacing behavior continues, sanctions will not be lifted. They will be tightened. Iran's leaders will have turned a proud nation into just another cautionary tale of what happens when a ruling class abandons its people and embarks on a crusade for personal power and riches. For 40 years, the world has listened to Iran's rulers as they lash out at everyone else for the problems they alone have created. They conduct ritual chants of death to America and traffic in monstrous anti-Semitism. Last year, the country's supreme leader stated Israel is a malignant, cancerous tumor that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible, and it will happen. America will never tolerate such anti-Semitic hate. Fanatics have long used hatred of Israel to distract from their own failures. Thankfully, there is a growing recognition in the wider Middle East that the countries of the region share common interests in battling extremism and unleashing economic opportunity. That is why it is so important to have full, normalized relations between Israel and its neighbors. Only a relationship built on common interests, mutual respect, and religious tolerance can forge a better future. Iran's citizens deserve a government that cares about reducing poverty, ending corruption, and increasing jobs, not stealing their money to fund and massacre abroad and at home. After 4 decades of failure, it is time for Iran's leaders to step forward and to stop threatening other countries and focus on building up their own country. It is time for Iran's leaders to finally put the Iranian people first. America is ready to embrace friendship with all who genuinely seek peace and respect. Many of America's closest friends today were once our greatest foes. The United States has never believed in permanent enemies. We want partners, not adversaries. America knows that while anyone can make war, only the most courageous can choose peace. For this same reason, we have pursued bold diplomacy on the Korean Peninsula. I have told Kim Jong-un what I truly believe, that like Iran, his country is full of tremendous untapped potential, but that to realize that promise, North Korea must denuclearize. Around the world, our message is clear. America's goal is lasting. America's goal is harmony. And America's goal is not to go with these endless wars that never end. With that goal in mind, my administration is also pursuing the hope of a brighter future in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the Taliban has chosen to continue their savage attacks. We will continue to work with our coalition of Afghan partners to stamp out terrorism, and we will never stop working to make peace a reality. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are joining with our partners to ensure stability and opportunity all across the region. In that mission, one of our most critical challenges is illegal immigration, which undermines prosperity, rips apart societies, and empowers ruthless criminal cartels. Mass illegal migration is unfair, unsafe, and unsustainable for everyone involved. The sending countries and the depleted countries, and they become depleted very fast, but their youth is not taken care of, and human capital goes to waste. The receiving countries are overburdened with more migrants than they can responsibly accept, and the migrants themselves are exploited, assaulted, and abused by vicious coyotes. Nearly 1/3 of women who make the journey north to our border are sexually assaulted along the way. Yet here in the United States and around the world, there is a growing cottage industry of radical activists and non-governmental organizations that promote human smuggling. These groups encourage illegal migration and demand erasure of national borders. Today, I have a message for those open border activists who cloak themselves in the rhetoric of social justice. Your policies are not just. Your policies are cruel and evil. You are empowering criminal organizations that prey on innocent men, women, and children. You put your own false sense of virtue before the lives, well-being, and countless innocent people. When you undermine border security, you are undermining human rights and human dignity. Many of the countries here today are coping with the challenges of uncontrolled migration. Each of you has the absolute right to protect your borders. And so, of course, does our country. Today, we must resolve to work together to end human smuggling, end human trafficking, and put these criminal networks out of business for good. To our country, I can tell you sincerely, we are working closely with our friends in the region, including Mexico, Canada, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Panama, to uphold the integrity of borders and ensure safety and prosperity for our people. I would like to thank President Lopez Obrador of Mexico for the great cooperation we are receiving and for right now putting 27,000 troops on our southern border. Mexico is showing us great respect, and I respect them in return. The U.S., we have taken very unprecedented action to stop the flow of illegal immigration. To anyone conducting crossings of our border illegally, please hear these words. Do not pay the smugglers. Do not pay the coyotes. Do not put yourself in danger. Do not put your children in danger, because if you make it here, you will not be allowed in. You will be promptly returned home. You will not be released into our country. As long as I am President of the United States, we will enforce our laws and protect our borders. For all of the countries of the Western Hemisphere, our goal is to help people invest in the bright futures of their own nation. Our region is full of such incredible promise, dreams waiting to be built, and national destinies for all. And they are waiting also to be pursued. Throughout the hemisphere, there are millions of hardworking, patriotic young people eager to build, innovate, and achieve. But these nations cannot reach their potential if a generation of youth abandon their homes in search of a life elsewhere. We want every nation in our region to flourish and its people to thrive in freedom and peace. In that mission, we are also committed to supporting those people in the Western Hemisphere who live under brutal oppression, such as those in Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. According to a recent report from the UN Human Rights Council, women in Venezuela stand in line for 10 hours a day waiting for food. Over 15,000 people have been detained as political prisoners. Modern-day death squads are carrying out thousands of extrajudicial killings. The dictator Maduro is a Cuban puppet protected by Cuban bodyguards, hiding from his own people, while Cuba plunders Venezuela's oil wealth to sustain its own corrupt communist rule. Since I last spoke in this hall, the United States and our partners have built a historic coalition of 55 countries that recognize the legitimate government of Venezuela. To the Venezuelans trapped in this nightmare, please know that all of America is united behind you. The United States has vast quantities of humanitarian aid ready and waiting to be delivered. We're watching the Venezuela situation very closely. We await the day when democracy will be restored, when Venezuela will be free, and when liberty will prevail throughout this hemisphere. One of the most serious challenges our countries face is the specter of socialism. It's the wrecker of nations and destroyer of societies. Events in Venezuela remind us all that socialism and communism are not about justice. They are not about equality. They are not about lifting up the poor. And they are certainly not about good of the nation. Socialism and communism are about one thing only: power for the ruling class. Today I repeat a message for the world that I have delivered at home. America will never be a socialist country. In the last century, socialism and communism killed 100 million people. Sadly, as we see in Venezuela, the death toll continues in this country. These totalitarian ideologies, combined with modern technology, have the power to excise new and disturbing forms of suppression and domination. For this reason, the United States is taking steps to better screen foreign technology and investments and to protect our data and our security. We urge every nation present to do the same. Freedom and democracy must be constantly guarded and protected, both abroad and from within. We must always be skeptical of those who want conformity and control. Even in free nations, we see alarming signs and new challenges to liberty. A small number of social media platforms are acquiring immense power over what we can see and over what we are allowed to say. A permanent political class is openly disdainful, dismissive, and defiant of the will of the people. A faceless bureaucracy operates in secret and weakens democratic rule. Media and academic institutions push flat-out assaults on our histories, traditions, and values. In the United States, my administration has made clear to social media companies that we will uphold the right of free speech. A free society cannot allow social media giants to silence the voices of the people, and a free people must never, ever be enlisted in the cause of silencing, coercing, canceling, or blacklisting their own neighbors. As we defend American values, we affirm the right of all people to live in dignity. For this reason, my administration is working with other nations to stop criminalizing of homosexuality, and we stand in solidarity with LGBTQ people who live in countries that punish, jail, or execute individuals based upon sexual orientation. We are also championing the role of women in our societies. Nations that empower women are much wealthier, safer, and much more politically stable. It is therefore vital not only to a nation's prosperity, but also is vital to its national security to pursue women's economic development. Guided by these principles, my administration launched the Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiatives. The WGDP is the first ever government-wide approach to women's economic empowerment, working to ensure that women all over the planet have the legal right to own and inherit property, work in the same industries as men, travel freely, and access credit and institutions. Yesterday, I was also pleased to host leaders for a discussion about an ironclad American commitment protecting religious leaders and also protecting religious freedom. This fundamental right is under growing threat around the world. Hard to believe, but 80% of the world's population lives in countries where religious liberty is in significant danger or even completely outlawed. Americans will never fire or tire in our effort to defend and promote freedom of worship and religion. We want and support religious liberty for all. Americans will also never tire of defending innocent life. We are aware that many United Nations projects have attempted to assert a global right to taxpayer-funded abortion on demand, right up until the moment of delivery. Global bureaucrats have absolutely no business attacking the sovereignty of nations that wish to protect innocent life. Like many nations here today, we in America believe that every child, born and unborn, is a sacred gift from God. There is no circumstance under which the United States will allow international entries to trample on the rights of our citizens, including the right to self-defense. That is why this year I announced that we will never ratify the UN Arms Trade Treaty, which would threaten the liberties of law-abiding American citizens. The United States will always uphold our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. We will always uphold our Second Amendment. The core rights and values America defends today were inscribed in America's founding documents. Our nation's founders understood that there will always be those who believe they are entitled to wield power and control over others. Tyranny advances under many names and many theories, but it always comes down to the desire for domination. It protects not the interests of many, but the privilege of few. Our founders gave us a system designed to restrain this dangerous impulse. They chose to entrust American power to those most invested in the fate of our nation, a proud and fiercely independent people. The true good of a nation can only be pursued by those who love it, by citizens who are rooted in its history, who are nourished by its culture, committed to its values, attached to its people, and who know that its future is theirs to build or theirs to lose. Patriots see a nation and its destiny in ways no one else can. Liberty is only preserved, sovereignty is only secured, democracy is only sustained, greatness is only realized by the will and devotion of patriots. In their spirit is found the strength to resist oppression, the inspiration to forge legacy, the goodwill to seek friendship, and the bravery to reach for peace. Love of our nations makes the world better for all nations. So to all the leaders here today, join us in the most fulfilling mission a person could have, the most profound contribution anyone can make. Lift up your nations, cherish your culture, honor your histories, treasure your citizens, make your country strong and prosperous and righteous, honor the dignity of your people, and nothing will be outside of your reach. When our nations are greater, the future will be brighter, our people will be happier, and our partnerships will be stronger. With God's help, together we will cast off the enemies of liberty and overcome the oppressors of dignity. We will set new standards of living and reach new heights of human achievement. We will rediscover old truths, unravel old mysteries, and make thrilling new breakthroughs. And we will find more beautiful friendship and more harmony among nations than ever before. My fellow leaders, the path to peace and progress and freedom and justice and a better world for all humanity begins at home. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the nations of the world. And God bless America. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the United States of America for the statement just made. May I request the representatives to remain seated while we greet the President, after which the meeting will stand suspended for 5 minutes before resuming to hear the next speaker. I think better. Please be seated. The session is resumed. Please be seated. 5 minutes is over, please. 5 minutes is over, please. Please be seated. Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The session is resumed. 5 minutes is over, please. Should we start? Yeah, to leave, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the session is resumed, please. The assembly. It is here? Is the assistant here? Okay. Okay. The assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt. May I request protocol to export His Excellency on behalf of the General Assembly. I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt. And to invite him to address the Assembly.
شكرا فخامة الرئيس.
I thank you, Mr. President.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of God.
السيد الرئيس.
Mr. President.
يسعدني بداية
At the outset.
أن أقدم لكم
It gives me
خالص التهنئة على توليكم رئاسة الجمعية العامة
في
دورتها الرابعة والسبعين، وأن أعرب عن تقديري لجهود السيدة ماريا سبيتوزا رئيسة الدورة السابقة. السيدات والسادة، يأتي جمعنا هذا العام في وقت ازدادت فيه جسامة التحديات التي يشهدها العالم، ما يحتم علينا جميعا أن نفتح نقاشا معمقا حول تطوير عملنا تحت مظلة الأمم المتحدة، إعلاء للقيم السامية التي تم إنشاء المنظمة على أساسها، من خلال تأكيد التزامنا بنظام دولي عادل وفاعل قوامه الحوار والتعاون وإعلاء ثقافة السلام والاحترام المتبادل. ومصر كعضو مؤسس للأمم المتحدة والعدد من المنظمات الإقليمية كالاتحاد الإفريقي الذي نحظى هذا العام بشرف رئاسته وجامعة الدول العربية لطالما كانت لديها رؤيتها وإسهامها في مواجهة أهم التحديات التي يشهدها عالمنا. فاسمحوا لي من هذا المنبر المهم أن أستعرض تلك الرؤى والمساهمات. السيد الرئيس، إن احترام مبدأ الملكية الوطنية للحلول هو أمر حتمي لضمان فاعلية منظومة العمل الدولي متعدد الأطراف، وإن لمصر تجربة وطنية رائدة في هذا الشأن، حيث أطلقت خطة طموحة للنهوض بمجتمعها على نحو شامل، بما في ذلك التصدي الحاسم للإرهاب أو عبر برنامج إصلاح اقتصادي هو الأكثر طموحا في تاريخها الحديث، وذلك وفقا لخطة وأولويات تبلورت وطنيا وحظت بدعم الشعب المصري الذي كان له الفضل الأول في تحمل أعبائها وتنفيذ مراحلها الأولى بنجاح فاق المتوقع. وأما على النطاق الإقليمي فقد عملنا بحكم رئاستنا للاتحاد الإفريقي وبالمشاركة مع أشقائنا على ترسيخ مبدأ الحلول الإفريقية للمشاكل الإفريقية حتى يتسنى اعتماد مقاربة شاملة تستهدف إرساء دعائم التنمية من خلال رؤية قارية تستند إلى مقومات التاريخ المشترك ووحدة المصير. والثقة في قدرتنا تسير قدما نحو الاندماج وإعلاء مصالح شعوبنا، وتعزيزا لهذا التوجه فقد تم تدشين آلية جديدة في القاهرة لهذا الغرض، هي مركز الاتحاد الإفريقي لإعادة الإعمار والتنمية، الذي سيركز على إعادة بناء الدول في مرحلة ما بعد النزاعات. ولا شك أنكم جميعا تابعتم النتائج الناجحة لتطبيق مبدأ الملكية الوطنية من خلال دور إفريقي فاعل أثمر عن اتفاق السلام في إفريقيا الوسطى وتصور مشترك بين الأطراف المختلفة في السودان لإدارة المرحلة الانتقالية. ومن هنا أؤكد على أهمية رفع السودان من قوائم الدول الراعية للإرهاب تقديرا للتحول الإيجابي الذي يشهده هذا البلد الشقيق، وبما يمكنه من مواجهة التحديات الاقتصادية من خلال التفاعل مع المؤسسات الاقتصادية الدولية تلبية لآمال شعبه وأن يأخذ المكانة التي يستحقها ضمن الأسرة الدولية، وارتباطا بمبدأ الملكية الوطنية فإن دول القارة على يقين تام بأهمية تطوير شراكات حقيقية وفعالة للتصدي للتحديات السياسية والاقتصادية التي تواجهها، وللحصول على المعرفة والتكنولوجيا وتطوير الموارد البشرية الإفريقية وتوفير التمويل والدعم السياسي، وهي أمور تعد أساسية لتحقيق أجندة الاتحاد الإفريقي للتنمية 2063. ومن ثم أطالب مؤسسات التمويل الدولية والقارية والإقليمية بأن تطلع بدورها في تمويل التنمية بإفريقيا بأفضل وأيسر الشروط، مؤكدا أن القارة الإفريقية هي قارة الفرص التي يمكن أن تكون قاطرة جديدة للاقتصاد العالمي، خاصة مع إطلاق منطقة التجارة الحرة القارية وتعزيز ترتيبات التكامل الإقليمي ووضع استراتيجية طموحة للبنية التحتية. وأشير في هذا الإطار إلى مبادرة مصر بالدعوة لعقد النسخة الأولى من منتدى أسوان للسلام والتنمية المستدامين في ديسمبر من العام الجاري بمدينة أسوان، ليكون نموذجا لإطلاق الحوار بين الفاعلين الدوليين والإقليميين من القادة السياسيين والمؤسسات التمويلية والمجتمع المدني والقطاع الخاص لوضع المبادرات والآليات الدولية والإقليمية في إفريقيا موضع التنفيذ. السيد الرئيس،
Mr.
إن
President,
تصفية الأزمات المزمنة الموروثة
the resolution of protracted
شرط
crises
ضروري
and inherited
لأي عمل جاد
is a
لبناء منظومة
necessary
دولية
precondition for
أكثر
any
فاعلية.
serious efforts aimed at
والمثال
formulating a
الأبرز
more
في هذا
effective
الشأن
international system.
هو أقدم
The most
أزمات
prominent
منطقة الشرق
example of this
الأوسط
is the longest
وهي
standing crisis
القضية
in the Middle East,
الفلسطينية.
namely the Palestinian cause.
إن بقاء هذه القضية
The
دون حل
persistence of this cause
عادل
without a just
مستند إلى
solution
قرارات
based on
الشرعية
international
الدولية
resolutions
يفضي لقيام
calling for
الدولة
the
الفلسطينية
establishment of an
المستقلة
independent Palestinian state
وعاصمتها القدس
with East
الشرقية
Jerusalem as its
لا يعني
capital
فقط
does not
استمرار
only
معاناة
mean
الشعب
the
الفلسطيني
continuation of the plight of the
وإنما يعني
Palestinian
أيضا
people, but it also
استمرار
entails the
مرحلة
continued
الاستنزاف
depletion
لمقدرات
of the resources
وموارد
of
شعوب
the
منطقة
peoples
الشرق الأوسط.
of the Middle East.
وأستطيع بضمير مطمئن
And I reiterate with
أن
a clear
أؤكد ما
conscience
سبق وذكرته على هذا
what I've
المنبر
stated from this
في
podium
السنوات الماضية
over the past few years.
من أن العرب
I say
منفتحون
that Arabs are
على
open
السلام
to
العادل
the
والشامل
realization of a just and
وأن
comprehensive
المبادرة
peace.
العربية
The
للسلام
Arab peace
لا
initiative
تزال
is
قائمة
still on the table,
وأن الفرصة ما
and there
زالت
remains an
سانحة
opportunity
لبدء مرحلة جديدة
to
في الشرق الأوسط
launch a new
إلا أننا
phase in the
بحاجة
Middle East.
لقرارات
However,
جريئة
we need
تعيد
bold
الحق
decisions that
للفلسطينيين
restore the rights to the
وتفتح الطريق
Palestinians, that
أمام
pave the
نقلة
way for a
كبرى
major
في
change
واقع
in the
هذه
reality
المنطقة
of this region.
بل وبدون
And I
مبالغة
say this without
في
exaggeration.
تاريخ النظام الدولي
In
كله
the entire
يترتب
world,
عليها إقامة
these
منظومة
decisions
أمنية
will lead to the
واقتصادية
establishment
في
of a
منطقة
security
الشرق
and
الأوسط
economic system in the
قوامها
Middle East
السلام
that is based
والأمن
on peace,
والتعاون
security,
والمصلحة
cooperation,
المشتركة.
and common interest.
السيد الرئيس
And that is going to do it for us today at Fox 29's News Now. Be sure to catch us again tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. And follow us at fox29.com as well as our mobile app and across social media. And thank you for joining us this morning.